Prophet Marcello Occurrence. So this video is going to be about doors of destiny are closing at the end of the world. This is a timely message because it's people that talk about destiny, talk about doors of destiny, getting your destiny, etc., woo woo woo, right? But how is there going to be real prophets talking about destiny when it's only like a certain amount of time left? So in the spiritual world, let's just say in the case that it's like 5 more years left, then how is a prophet going to come and talk about you doing something for the next 20 years? How is a prophet going to come talking about you doing something in the next 20 years and it's only 5 years left for the world? That's a lie. How else you want me to put it? If a prophet say, I see you for the next 20 years preaching all over the world, but it's only 5 years left. I'm not saying we know, okay? So don't be so smart you're stupid. Let's say in the case that it is just 5 years left. Because at some point it is going to be 5 years left. At some point we can all agree on that. We don't know when it's going to be 5 years left. But at some point it will be 5 years left. Then how somebody going to preach and say, oh, for the next 20 years you're going to be preaching all over the world? That becomes a lie. And that's what a lot of preachers feed off of, talking about these doors of destiny, your destiny. But at some point, God showed me this as one of his prophets. At some point, the doors of destiny close, which means there's a whole shift in ministry. You see where I'm going? Where now preachers ain't even talking about destiny. Let's ponder that. Let's ponder that. When there's not a lot of time left in the world, and most prophets already realize, every time I listen, every time I watch these prophets or these people talk about, I see you doing stuff around the world, I just be kind of shaking my head, because I know it's not a lot of time left, and most prophets already know that. Most prophets already know it ain't no whole bunch of time left. So then, like, these messages of destiny is like, okay, how am I supposed to process this when I know my spirit is telling me it ain't a whole bunch of time left? So then why even think about it? So then you become a whole different animal spiritually, where you're not, especially if you live in America, where you're not focused on these doors opening, these things, these major doors of ministry opening, doing stuff for the next 10, 20 years. I don't even think about that kind of stuff anymore. I don't even think about the next 10, 20 years. That's just me. Now, am I to say when it's going to happen? I don't know when it's going to happen. God, the Bible makes it clear, no man knows the day or the hour when Jesus Christ will return. I don't know. Okay? So you will never see me make that mistake if you're waiting for it, or the Americans are waiting for it, where I started trying to predict the coming of Jesus. I would never try to predict the coming of Jesus. Okay? You will never see that happen. I would never make that mistake. I'm too biblically sound to make that mistake. Nobody knows, right? God will show you that there's not a lot of time left. God will show you the seasons that we in. You might not know when he's going to come back, but he will show you the season. As a matter of fact, I'm paraphrasing, Jesus showed the seasons when he would come back. He said when right before, and I'm paraphrasing, in the last days, these things will happen, that things will happen, this will be happening, that will be happening, that will be happening. That's what Jesus said. He talked about men will be lovers of themselves, all kind of stuff. They will be truce breakers, all kind of stuff. So Jesus himself, that will return, pointed out the seasons of the last days. So you're supposed to point out the seasons. If Jesus gave you the seasons, how you ain't gonna point out the seasons? He gave you the seasons that he gonna come back. He showed you key things, and some people are so scrambled brains, especially if you live here in America, where you say, well, all this stuff been going on in America for a long time. But it's more heightened to where it's like the whole collective community is doing all this stuff that you used to see back in the day. Now everybody's doing it. You name the sin, everybody's doing it. Everybody's getting high. Everybody's killing. Everybody's doing all the stuff. There's violence everywhere. Everybody's doing it. That's what Jesus was talking about when everybody started doing it. That's what he was talking about. Not this little patch here, this little patch there, this little patch everywhere in America. Nah. Now you see the difference where it's the whole collective community is doing this stuff. And like I explained, you know, I don't know how people think this world is going to change or America is going to change when the mentality of the people is gone. Their mentality is gone. Once a mentality of a people, their worldviews is gone, you can't retrieve it back. You can't get it back. You can't get back how black people used to think in the 60s and get them to think like they used to think in the 60s, where they were soul brothers and soul sisters. You can't get that back. You can't get that mentality back. You can't get people to think like that back. And sometimes people ain't even aware that they've changed. Their mindset ain't to change. They don't love black people like they used to. They don't love, no, they don't. And we know that. Black people don't love each other like they used to. So how can you make it back like it was back in the 60s and 70s and the 80s where, you know, we could get together as black people and love each other and everything? You can't get that back. It's gone. So that's a sign of the times. You know, that the people's minds is gone. It's changed. It ain't going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. It ain't going to ever be the same. That's how you know it's no hope. You want me to tell you how it's no hope for the future? Because the mentality of the people, you know you can't change that. Come on. All how these people think these days, all this killing and all this crazy stuff going, you can't change that. Who can change it? We can't. See, I like to, and I encourage you to look at the prayer of serenity. Even though it's not biblical, it is a type of wisdom that shows you, help me to give me the courage to change the things I can. Help me to accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I'm paraphrasing. You get the courage to change things you can change, but you accept the things you cannot change. And you have the wisdom also to know the difference between things you can change and things you can't. And you know, and for a lot of pro-black people and a lot of pro-American people, you have not studied or mastered or made applicable the prayer of serenity, where you can't change this stuff. You gotta accept it. You can't change the mentality. All these kids, 20-somethings and all that, out here bugged out on all kind of drugs, syrup, and all this stuff, pills. Man, how you gonna change? They too intoxicated. The main thing, how you know most of these people is not gonna change, is because they're too intoxicated. Anybody that done got high before know what I'm talking about. People a collective community that is always intoxicated cannot change. They not gonna change. Most of them ain't gonna change. They can, but they not. They not gonna change. So, like, this is why I have, even though you might think I'm a person that is about change, and I am, but I also don't go to the extreme of thinking I can change the world. I don't go to the extreme of thinking I can change America. Because every man has free will. So if you think I'm one of them people, I'm not. I'm not a person that think I can change America. The mindsets of the people is too gone. It's too gone. Okay? It's too far gone. Okay? So you have to look at and consider all these things. When you look at these people out here and you think, what we gonna do? How we gonna navigate? What's next? And when they talking about doors of destiny, you got to shoot that right down. Because you look at all these people, you look at all how they think. Ain't no doors of destiny. How it's gonna what the doors of destiny, what people is gonna be to. See where it's at. I'm trying to show you where it's at. It's like so close for all of this to end. While some people still talking about doors of destiny, man, listen. There are no more. The doors of destiny are closing, which means God's true people in America is going to stop talking about doors of destiny. And every false teacher and false prophet is going to be still talking about doors of destiny when it's over, when doors of destiny are closing. That's how you're going to find out who false teachers. Because when God shifts his people, because it's ending, you ain't going to hear nobody talking about, you ain't going to hear God's people talking about, 20 years from now, you're going to be doing this. If it ain't, listen, what I want you to understand, clear cut, how it need to be said. If there's not 20 more years left, then that's a lie. If you go to a church and a preacher pull you up to the front of the church and say, for the next 18 years, you're going to be all flying around the world, but it's not 18 more years left, that's not a mistake. That's a lie. That's a person in church that's used to saying these timelines over people's life, and it's not a real prophecy. You just putting this timeline over people's life to get them excited for what you hope for, even if you innocent. Let's say if you just really, and you don't set out to be no false prophet, but you the type of person that, you just got hope for people doing stuff. You can't put prophecies over people's life in hope. It has to be real. So you can't just hope a prophecy where I hope for you to be flying all around the world. But that's how you have to say it. If you hope for somebody to do something, then the way I would say it is I would pull them up to the front of the church, and as I'm praying, I hope for you to fly around the world and preach the gospel for the next 15 years. I hope for you to preach for the next 18, 20 years. I hope for you to do it. I can hope for you to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I say God is telling me that you're going to prophesy, you're going to be around the world for the next 15, 20 years, you know how many preachers doing that? You know how many preachers are talking about timelines that's not going to happen? And this is what I'm talking about when I say doors of destiny is closing. The doors of destiny, doing all these different things, doing all these different vocations, going out here all over the world, doing all this stuff. In the last days, the doors of destiny is closing. And in a tricky way, this is how we gonna know who's real and who's fake. Because those who are fake is still gonna be talking about doors of destiny. And those who are real, like me and you, they're going to shift and they're going to become a whole different animal. Something they ain't even have no foreknowledge of. You're going to become a whole different person. As far as your focus and as far as your anointing and as far as what you preach about and what you teach about, you ain't going to be teaching about no doors of destiny, because God got you in the spirit where there's not a lot of time left. Listen, he telling you it's not a lot of time left. Are you paying attention? Okay, based off the strength of that, you getting it from other different ministers and Christians and people, and you see what's going on in the world, you should already be open to the thought of it's almost over. You should already be open to it. Which means really you should be talking along those lines these days. Not 20, 30 years, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. That time, listen, I'm not saying this for no reason. There are many preachers and Christians that are out here. And listen, I'm not saying you a false prophet or a false teacher. You just hope for people to do stuff. You just hope for people to do this. You hope for people to do that. You hope for God's people to do things, right? That's an innocent, beautiful thing, to hope for God's people to do stuff. But where you make a mistake, where you're in error, is when your hope becomes excessive and extreme to where you prophesy your hope. You can't prophesy your hope. Nah. Now, in the American church, you would think you can prophesy your hope. No, I'm telling you, as a real prophet of God, you can't prophesy your hope. You cannot prophesy something you hope for in your humanity for your community. You can't prophesy hope. You have to prophesy what God has told you. You have to prophesy what God has said to you. You can't prophesy what you want to happen for the community of America, what you want to happen for black people, white people, Hispanic, and Latinos. You can't prophesy hope. Because that's coming from you. Prophecy comes from God. Prophesying hope comes from you and your earthly humanity realm, where on Pacific situations and Pacific people and Pacific geographics, that's all coming from you. This is how people get in trouble. You know how many people are in trouble with God? Prophesying your hope. Prophesying your hope for America. Prophesying your hope for your family. Prophesying your hope for black people. Prophesying hope for all this situation, all these things going on. You cannot prophesy your hope. Things you hope for. You have to prophesy what God has given you. And listen, you got to listen. God's true people is paying attention to all these things going on. We already aware that it's not a lot of time left. So our mindset of prophecy is shifting to where we ain't talking about no destiny. We ain't talking about none of this stuff no more. No. If anything, we prophesying about these final hours. We prophesying about things that is about to come to pass. We prophesying about things that's about to take place concerning these wars and all that. See, that's the main place you're going to be as a prophet. Hallelujah. In 2026, you're going to be prophesying about these wars, these struggles, these things. Why wouldn't you? It's what's going on. Why wouldn't you be prophesying about that? If it is the actual occurrence of things, it is the actual events of things, then why wouldn't you be prophesying about those occurrences and those events? So for God's true people, he's going to shift you. I'm trying to show you before you embarrass yourself. Before you embarrass yourself in front of the rest of the body of Christ, and you keep talking about destiny, you keep talking about these destiny and things that's going on, and listen, I want you to pay attention. That's not the time we in no more. That time is gone. The doors of destiny. And this has been a message for the past about 3 years for my life. The doors of destiny is closing. The doors of destiny is closing. All this talking about destiny and like it used to be back in the day, about 20 years ago. I was a Christian. I was serving God 20 years ago. I was serving God 20 years ago. And back then there was these messages from TV evangelists, from different preachers on TV, and they would talk about these promised land like destiny messages and everything. They would talk about these things happening all around the world. These other preachers were coming from of a church, and they would prophesy over them and tell them, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, you're going to be doing it. That was 20 years ago. Most of that stuff's supposed to have been done by now. Think about what I'm saying. You got to keep up with the times. Most of that stuff that you heard prophesied around 2005, 2006, 2003, all that stuff, it's 20 years later. That stuff's supposed to have been done. Most of it is done if it was real prophecy. Now, destiny doors are closing. It's closing. And see, if you're in the spirit, that's why you got to listen to somebody in the spirit. You can't be arrogant. You can't be arrogant. It's many of you out here. You think you know God better than everybody else, but you ain't in the spirit. But in your arrogance, you think you are. In your arrogance, you think you know what's going on. But you ain't getting nothing in the spirit because you ain't in the spirit. So how you getting something from the spirit? See, this is the kind of teaching you need to get back to. How you getting something in the spirit and you ain't in the spirit? How you getting what you need in the spirit? Hallelujah. See, I just created my own way in the spirit. I stopped waiting for people to feed me spiritual excitement. Many people live off of spiritual excitement. You waiting for somebody to feed your spirit. You waiting for somebody to feed you to be happy about serving God and to be excited about serving God. I create my own excitement. I create my own spiritual excitement to serve God. I don't wait for nobody to feed my spirit. See, listen, many of you that come from the non-denominational church in America, with all the sensationalisms that was in the church, all that hooping and hollering, all that yelling and shouting, the reason why you've been like you've been for the past 10, 15 years is because, listen, you got withdrawal symptoms from being excited, being a person that only eats spiritually when you're excited. You're only eating spiritually. You're only compelled to fast when some famous preacher is talking to you. Listen, that's why we find out who is the real and who is the fake. Because when all the cameras go, when all these people go away, all these preachers on TV go away, basically, what are you doing? That's what Jesus going. What are you doing? What Jesus going to say to you? What are you doing now? All that stuff in the past, it's all gone. Who you serving now? You're serving yourself. That's what you're doing. You're serving yourself. That's what you're doing. And only those who serve me is still doing it. Those, listen, that's why the Bible says, listen, the race is not given to the swift nor the strong. The race is given to those who endure to the end. You got to remember, no matter how strong these preachers are, no matter how swift these people are, they fly through ministry and hundreds of years through ministry, and then listen, they fall off spiritually. They did not endure to the end. Many of you, you're in danger of not enduring to the end. Let me say that again. Many of you are in spiritual danger of not enduring to the end of the world and going to hell. Because listen, I don't care what your mama told you. I don't care what your daddy told you. I don't care what your grandma told you. They can't put you in heaven with these prophecies. Most of those prophecies that they gave you, and this is a full revelation, this is a full revolution of my point. Most of those prophecies was prophecies of hope. Were things they hoped for you. They hoped for you to get to heaven. They hoped for you to be blessed. They hoped for things to happen for you. But the bottom line is this: no matter what they told you, if you don't use your free will to serve God, you have they had that prophecy has no power over your free will. Whatever they told you, that has no power over your free will to do what you want to do. If you choose not to do what you're supposed to do, you're going to burn in hell. I'm telling you right now. This is the kind of preaching you need. Because people think, well, I'm going to just do what I want to do. You're going to burn in hell if you do that. That's what you got to get back to. Well, that's the reality. You got to get back to telling people, listen, you can go out there and do what you want to do, but if you died like that, see, that's what I was conscious of the whole time when I was backsliding, doing what I want to do, promiscuous sex and all the stuff, smoking and drinking and doing whatever I want to do. Listen, I was always conscious of going to hell. I ain't never want to get caught slipping. That's why I didn't. Because I was in the spiritual battlefield. Even though I was backsliding, I wasn't no little rabbit in the spiritual battlefield. Hallelujah. I never see some of y'all get backslidden and you turn into a rabbit. A rabbit, right? You turn into a bunny. No, I ain't turned into no bunny when I became backslidden. Many of you become bunnies when you backslide. Now you're just like prey. And you're almost on your way to hell. When I backslid, I was well aware that I did not want to die and go to hell. I did not want to die and go to hell out there. Nobody need to tell me that. Nobody need to pray for me out there. I was conscious of not going out there too strong, going out there too deep, and making the wrong decisions that will put me in hell. Some of y'all are rabbits in the spirit. You're a rabbit. You bouncing around, you're a rabbit. You're in danger. You're in danger of going to hell. You're in danger of not enduring to the end, and in your arrogance, you think you got this favorable place in God that you don't have. None of us have it. Not even me. I ain't got no place where I can't go to hell. Who has that place? You have a place where you can do what you want to do. And somehow, some way, prophecy lines up with you and you go to heaven. That's how some Americans think. That somehow they just gonna go to heaven. Listen, that's one of the greatest deceptions that there is. You only gonna get there if you use your free will to serve God. That's how you're gonna get there. And that's the kind of preaching, the old-fashioned preaching you need. You ain't going unless you use your free will to go. You're going straight to hell. And many of you are in danger right now, burning in hell forever. You're going to burn forever. If you play with God, you're going to burn forever. You know how many servants of God, you know how many preachers in hell right now? Oh, you don't believe that, do you? You don't believe that it's preachers in hell, do you? You don't believe it is no bishops and deacons and apostles in hell. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Burning forever. Pastors burning forever. See, it's a wake-up call. You know what they had? They had this superiority complex. Once they got a little bit of power in the church, they thought they couldn't burn in hell. Once they got a little position, they thought they couldn't burn in hell. They in hell right now. And see, this is what kept me sober. Listen, man, you can't play with God, bro. See, that's how you know who know God and who don't. I don't play with God. No. What? I'm a prophet, but I can burn. Okay? That's what keep me sober. You know what keep me sober? I know I can burn just like sinners. You can burn in hell just like everybody else. See, I'm going to tell you, in the American church specifically, people get so arrogant in their titles and positions. Whoever told them gassed them so bad. They got gassed so bad. It could be their family. It's going to start with your family. Your family going to tell you all this stuff about you. You're going to tell yourself stuff about yourself based on your spiritual experiences that you really genuinely did experience with God. But that gassed you. It gassed you to make you feel that you could just make it to heaven no matter what you do. That's the deception of the enemy on the spiritual battlefield. And you became a rabbit. You're a rabbit in the spirit. You're a bunny in the spirit hopping around. And the devil going to tear you apart. If you do not choose to use your free will to serve God. See, when I lose my way and I really don't care about life, you know what keep me serving God? I don't want to burn in hell. I don't care about this world no more. I don't care about what happens. I don't care about destiny, obviously. I don't care about doing some great thing anymore. That time is gone. Settle it. We no longer care about doing some great thing and doing this stuff with music and doing this stuff with ministry. That time is gone. Now, all we focused on is not burning in hell. You see where my spiritual lane is at? See, that's your spiritual lane. That's what it needs to be. Because listen, buddy, I don't care how emotional and how emotionally depressed you are. Because when people get depressed and emotional, they'll say, well, I just want to burn in hell anyway. I just rather just go ahead and burn in hell for what I've done. I'll just burn in hell because I don't care no more. Really, I guarantee you, just like they say on the internet, you will instantly regret it. Decided to burn in hell and instantly regretted it. That's what happened. You will instantaneously regret it. You ain't tough enough for hell. Ain't nobody. I'm not tough enough. Ain't nobody. It will make everybody say uncle. You will be saying uncle from burning in hell. I promise you that. And see, that's what keeps me sober right there. Because, I mean, as the world ends, it ain't much to hope for in the material world. Many of us are struggling with money. We don't care. Many of us have suffered so much, we don't even care about life no more. Once you go through a certain amount of stuff, you already kind of dead, if that makes sense. If you suffered enough in the world, on the streets, you've been homeless, you've been through that a million times, it's already a type of death. Because you suffer so much in this life. And you don't really care about, doing some great stuff anymore. You don't care about life at all. And it's okay to kind of have that feeling where you don't really care about the future. And that doesn't mean you're suicidal. It doesn't mean you're depressed. You've been through so much that it doesn't matter. Those things don't matter to you. The material things don't matter. Whether you have some destiny. See, I'm getting that destiny thing off of you. That was putting you from back in the Mega Fest times with TD Jakes. No disrespect to that and TD Jakes. I'm getting that Mega Fest destiny kind of stuff off of you. That time is gone. And many of you don't care about life. And many of us, we don't care about life. You done been through too much to care. Too many disappointments. Too many tragedies. Many of you have been through too many tragedies to care about life. And I can relate to that. I done been through a lot of tragedies. And when you go through a lot of tragedies, it's an issue in itself, tragedies. You don't care about life. You don't care what happens next. But I will encourage you, even though we are passing past the days of destiny, and we're going into the final hours where it's the end of all things. I encourage you to pick up your cross and to live for Jesus so that you don't burn in hell. See, now that's what it's getting down to. When all this stuff is burned away from like the material world and all this doing this stuff and my 401k plan and I'm getting 50K for doing this, I'm getting 50K for doing that. When that's not happening to the everyday Joe anymore, the everyday Joe can just say, I don't care if I burn in hell. I don't care if I die. I don't care what happens. And many of you can relate to that. I mean, everybody else is living it up, eating good, eating whatever they want to eat, living how they want to live. Their house look good, they life feel good, they under the AC, they do whatever they want to do. Life is a burden for many of you. It's just like a burden. And it's going to be like that in the last days. Life is going to be like a burden instead of a pleasure. And you have to endure to the end that you go to heaven, that you do not burn in hell, because you will instantly regret it. And if you think you're special, there's many of you that are out there that's very spiritual, but you think you're so special, you can't burn in hell. Listen, that's a lie. That's a deception. All of us can burn in hell. All you got to do is use your free will to sin, and you will be burning in hell. That's what keeps you sober and humble, is that no matter what titles I get, no matter who I think I am, or no matter who I really am, if I choose to break legal spiritual laws and live in sin, if I die like that, I'm going to burn in hell. Okay? Nobody is above that law. No, not me, not you. And so you got to ungas yourself, okay? And you can say, yeah, I was a little gassed. I was a little gassed about everything everybody was saying around me. I was a little gassed about the folklore from my family telling me I'm so spiritual, I'm so great. I was gassed. Because the first thing with a spiritual person is you're going to go back to your family. And you got all these stories where your family told you were so spiritual. I don't care what they told you. If you do not choose to serve the Lord, you're going to burn in hell. I don't care what your church told you. I don't care what these preachers told you. If you do not, see what I'm saying? You see the deception. The deception of the enemy is you're getting all this stuff from your family, from the church, from all these people around you. And if you do not choose to use your free will to serve the Lord, you're going to burn in hell. Doors of destiny is closing. God is shifting his people, his real people. He's shifting his real people to where we're getting ready for the world to end. Therefore, your whole makeup as a spiritual person is going to change. You got to go through the changes the right way. Many of you are backsliding. That's why you're not going through the changes the right way. The reason why you're not thinking like me is because you're backsliding. Because the enemy hit everybody. He hit me too. And because you're backsliding, you're not seeing things totally the right way. Where you're trying to come back to God with the same approach. You're trying to come back to God's people with the same approach. And that's gone. So only those in the spirit is going to tell you that time is over. Because when you come back to God, you want to go back to where you left off in the spirit. Where you're talking about doors of destiny, talking about this, that, that. You're talking about the same stuff you was talking about. But if you was in the spirit, you would see God changed everything. He changed everything. And now there is a closing of doors of destiny. Destiny, all these doors of destiny, that time is over. The doors are closing. Now the Bible says this, and I'm paraphrasing. God has, Jesus Christ should find you working when he comes. Right? But even that work is going to be different than 10, 20 years when it's not 20 years left. It's not 20 years left. So your work is going to be according to the final hour. Your work is going that God finds you doing when he comes is going to be according to the last days in the final hour, where you have shifted from doors of destiny for like you're going to be doing something for 10, 20 years. No, you ain't going to be like that. You see what I'm saying? He's going to give you special objectives where you're doing what he wants you to do up until his coming. So now he's handing out objectives, missions, purposes. This is the conclusion. God is handing out objectives and missions according to what he wants you to do up until his coming. And that those missions are going to be different. It's not going to be like it was. It's not going to be like Mega Fest and all that kind of stuff. Scratch that. Scratch all of that. For God's true people, he's going to be giving you purposes and missions according to the final times up into his coming, right? And that's going to be unique in itself, where God's true people know it when they see it. And it's like, that's going to be really God's people right there. And everything that people talking about with destiny over there, nah, we ain't trying to hear that. See, that's religious people. You got to remember, religious people are going to ever be talking about something religious. Even up until the time that God comes back, even up until the time that Jesus Christ, the Messiah, comes back, they're always going to be talking about some type of door, some type of destiny and all this stuff. They're going to be talking about that. They're going to be talking about just these religious perspectives. And then you have God's true people that's in the spirit, and they're not going to be talking about that. They're going to be given spiritual objectives, still saving souls, still reaching people. But it's going to, you see what I'm saying? It's going to be a unique shift according to not a lot of time left. The shift is going to be identified that the mission and purpose I have, even though I don't know how much time is left, God is going to have, he's pushing me into the spirit to where I'm going to move according to how much time is left, even though I don't know how much time is left. I ain't going to know it, but I'm going to move like at that, as far as how much time is actually left without knowing it. My objective, the purpose that God gives me, is going to be according to how much time is left. Why would God give you an objective like it's for 20 years and it's not 20 years left? He's going to give you an objective according to how much time is left, and that's going to be God's people that we look to. Okay? So for God's true people, salute. Over and out.